Welcome to Christmas Stories for Sleep. Tonight, I have a special heartwarming tale for you. A story of magic, science, and unexpected love. So settle in, get comfortable, and let me tell you about Harper Phillips, a brilliant engineer who thought she had everything figured out. Until one snowy December night, when magic, quite literally, crashed into her life. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let's begin our journey to Hollybrook Falls, where the impossible becomes possible, and love finds a way to bridge even the most distant worlds. The snow fell in perfect, fat flakes outside Harper Phillips's home office window, but she barely noticed. Her eyes were fixed on the computer screen, displaying the latest telemetry data from her prototype delivery drone. Christmas Eve was tomorrow, and while the rest of Hollybrook Falls prepared for the holiday, Harper was exactly where she wanted to be, alone with her equations and engineering diagrams. "Velocity looks good," she murmured, adjusting her thick-framed glasses. Payload capacity could use some work, but a tremendous crash shook the entire house, sending her favorite NASA mug tumbling off the desk. Coffee splashed across her meticulously organized papers as something heavy scraped across the roof, followed by what sounded distinctly like bells. What the hell? Harper grabbed her parka from the coat rack, not bothering to change out of her flannel pajama pants and MIT sweatshirt. She burst through the back door into her snow-covered yard, then stopped dead in her tracks. There, tangled in her grandmother's prized rose arbor and half buried in a snowdrift, was what appeared to be an honest-to-goodness sleigh. Not a decorative lawn ornament or a parade float, but an actual wooden sleigh with intricate carvings that seemed to shimmer in the porch light. Even more impossible, standing beside it was a reindeer, a living, breathing reindeer with a glowing red nose that cast crimson shadows on the snow. "No, no, no, this is all wrong," a man's voice carried from behind the overturned vehicle. "Rudolph, buddy, you okay?" The reindeer snorted and shook his magnificent antlers, sending a cascade of snow flying. Harper stood frozen, her logical mind attempting to process what her eyes were seeing. Reindeer didn't have glowing noses. That was basic biology. And sleighs didn't just fall from the sky. That was basic physics. A figure emerged from behind the wreckage. A man who looked to be in his early 30s, with dark hair dusted with snow, and the kind of broad shoulders that suggested he was used to physical work. He wore a rich burgundy coat that looked like it had stepped out of a Victorian Christmas card, complete with brass buttons and fur trim. When he turned and saw Harper, his green eyes widened with something between relief and panic. "Oh, thank the North Star. Ma'am, I'm so sorry about your roses. And your roof, and, well, everything really." He ran a hand through his disheveled hair, dislodging more snow. "I don't suppose you know anything about quantum navigation systems?" Harper blinked. "Quantum navigation? Are you seriously standing in my destroyed garden with a bioluminescent reindeer and asking about theoretical physics?" "Theoretical?" The man's face fell. "Oh no, it's very practical, I assure you." The aurora borealis flux must have interfered with the guidance system. "I knew I should have recalibrated after that solar storm last week, but the season's been so busy and—" He stopped, seeming to realize he was rambling. "I'm Nicholas Ellis, and I'm in quite a bit of trouble." "Harper Phillips," she replied automatically, then shook her head. "Wait, no. I'm not doing introductions with someone who just crashed a sleigh into my house. What is this? Some kind of elaborate prank? Did the guys at the lab set this up?" Nicholas's expression grew serious. "I wish it were that simple, but I'm afraid this is very real, and I have approximately—" He pulled out an ornate pocket watch that seemed to glow with its own inner light. 29 hours and 43 minutes to complete a very important delivery run, or Christmas will be ruined for thousands of children. "Christmas will be ruined," Harper repeated flatly, "because your sleigh crashed." "Not just any sleigh," Nicholas said, moving to run his hand along the vehicle's side. Where he touched, the wood seemed to pulse with a warm, golden light. "This is the Aurora Borealis Mark 7th, one of the most advanced delivery vehicles in the fleet. She's got temporal compression capabilities, interdimensional storage, and a top speed of, well, that's classified. But the point is, without her, I can't finish my route. Harper felt a laugh bubbling up, the kind that bordered on hysteria. Temporal compression, right. And I suppose next you'll tell me you work for Santa Claus? Nicholas winced. The preferred term is Senior Holiday Logistics Coordinator. But, essentially, yes. That's when Harper noticed the sack in the back of the sleigh. It looked impossibly small, maybe the size of a camping backpack. But as she watched, Nicholas reached in and pulled out a wrapped present nearly as large as the sack itself. Then another. And another. Dimensional folding technology, Nicholas explained, noticing her stare. Each package exists in a quantum state until observed, allowing for maximum storage efficiency. It's really quite elegant when you understand the mathematics behind it. Harper's inner scientist warred with her rational mind. That's impossible. You're violating at least 3 laws of physics. Only in this dimension, Nicholas said with a slight smile. Look, I know this is a lot to process, but right now, I need help. The sleigh's navigation crystal is cracked. The temporal stabilizer is completely shot. And Rudolph, he gestured to the reindeer, who was now contentedly munching on what remained of Harper's rose bushes, tweaked his anterior levitation ligament in the crash. Without repairs, I'll never make my delivery deadline. Harper found herself walking closer to the sleigh, her engineer's eye automatically cataloging the damage. The craftsmanship was extraordinary. Joints that seemed to have no visible seams, metal components made from alloys she didn't recognize, and what appeared to be a control panel filled with crystals instead of circuits. Even if I believed any of this, she said slowly, what makes you think I could help? This technology is beyond anything I've ever seen. That's just it, Nicholas said eagerly. I've read your work on autonomous flight systems and alternative propulsion methods. Your paper on using magnetic field variations for navigation was brilliant. If anyone can help me create a workaround for the damaged systems, it's you. Harper stared at him. You've read my academic papers? He had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. We keep tabs on promising scientists. You'd be surprised how much Earth technology has influenced our designs over the years. That drone you're working on? The efficiency algorithms could revolutionize our sorting processes. Despite herself, Harper felt a flutter of professional pride. Then reality reasserted itself. This is insane. I'm standing in my pajamas on Christmas Eve, talking to a man who claims to be one of Santa's elves about fixing a magical sleigh. Helper, Nicholas corrected. Elves is considered a bit outdated, and technically it's not magic, it's just science you don't understand yet. Any sufficiently advanced technology, Harper murmured, is indistinguishable from magic, Nicholas finished, his face lighting up. Arthur C. Clarke. See? We're speaking the same language already. A cold wind whipped through the yard, making Harper shiver in her thin jacket. Nicholas immediately shrugged off his burgundy coat and draped it around her shoulders. It smelled like cinnamon and pine and something else she couldn't identify. Like the ozone smell before a thunderstorm, but warmer. Please, he said quietly. I know I'm asking you to take a leap of faith, but Christmas morning is in 36 hours, and there are children counting on me. On us, if you'll help. Harper looked from his earnest green eyes to the impossible sleigh to the reindeer with the glowing nose. Every logical bone in her body screamed that this was impossible. But the engineer in her was fascinated by the challenge. If I help you, she said slowly, and I'm not saying I believe any of this, but if I help you, I want to understand how all of this works. Every system, every component. Nicholas's smile could have powered a small city. Deal. Though I should warn you, once you see how the multiverse really works, there's no going back to ordinary Christmas celebrations. Harper snorted. I don't celebrate Christmas. Haven't in years. Something shifted in Nicholas's expression. Surprise mixed with what looked oddly like sadness. Well then, he said softly, maybe it's time that changed. As if in agreement, Rudolph chose that moment to nuzzle Harper's hand with his warm, velvety nose. Despite herself, she found her fingers curling to scratch behind his ears. Fine, she sighed, Let's get this thing into my garage before the neighbors call the police about the magical wildlife in my backyard. Nicholas's grin widened. Harper Phillips, you just saved Christmas. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, Harper muttered, but she was already mentally cataloging the tools she'd need. We haven't fixed anything yet. As they worked together to guide the damaged sleigh toward her garage, Harper couldn't shake the feeling that her carefully ordered world had just tilted on its axis. But surrounded by the impossibility of it all, the gentle chiming of the sleigh bells, the soft red glow from Rudolph's nose, and the warmth of Nicholas's coat around her shoulders, she found she didn't mind quite as much as she should have. Harper's garage had never looked so surreal. Her meticulously organized workspace, with its labeled toolboxes, precision instruments, and prototype drones, now hosted a gleaming sleigh that seemed to exist partially outside normal space. Every time she looked directly at it, the edges seemed to shimmer and shift, as if it couldn't quite decide which dimension it belonged in. Temporal displacement, Nicholas explained, noticing her stare as he carefully examined the damaged navigation crystal. She's trying to exist in Christmas Eve time while stuck in your linear time stream. It's causing a dimensional flutter. Of course it is, Harper muttered, pulling her hair back into a messy bun. She'd changed into jeans and an old Caltech sweatshirt, but Nicholas's coat still hung on a nearby hook, filling the garage with that strange, comforting scent. Let me guess, we need to synchronize the temporal frequencies before we can even begin repairs? Nicholas looked up, surprised. Actually, yes. How did you... Basic engineering principle. You can't fix a system that's not stable. Harper pulled over her rolling tool chest. Though usually I'm dealing with vibration frequencies, not time frequencies. Same concept, different application, Nicholas said with obvious delight. Oh, this is going to work brilliantly. I just know it. Harper snorted. Your optimism is premature. I haven't even diagnosed the full extent of the damage yet. She peered at the cracked crystal that seemed to be the heart of the navigation system. It was unlike anything she'd ever seen, a multifaceted gem that contained swirling galaxies of light within its depths. What is this made of? Crystallized aurora borealis, Nicholas said casually, as if that were a perfectly normal substance. Harvested from the magnetic convergence points at the North Pole. Takes about 70 years to form one this size. 70 years? Harper's engineer heart sank. Please tell me you have a spare. Ah, Nicholas rubbed the back of his neck. Not exactly. These are custom grown for each sleigh. But... He held up a hand before she could voice her dismay. I think we can create a patch using some earth materials. You wouldn't happen to have any rare earth magnets and fiber optic cables? In what universe would those things substitute for crystallized aurora borealis? This one, if we're creative about it. Nicholas pulled out what looked like a leather-bound journal, but when he opened it, the pages displayed holographic schematics that made Harper's head spin. See, the crystal essentially acts as a quantum compass, reading the magnetic fields between dimensions. If we can create a synthetic version using your technology, Harper found herself leaning closer, professional curiosity overriding skepticism. The rare earth magnets could provide the magnetic sensitivity, and the fiber optics could channel and focus the signals. Exactly, Nicholas beamed at her. I knew you'd get it. Your unconventional approach to problem solving is exactly what we need. They worked in companionable silence for a while, Harper fetching materials while Nicholas carefully extracted the damaged crystal. She couldn't help but notice the way he handled the sleigh's components, with a mixture of technical expertise and genuine affection, like a classic car enthusiast with a beloved vintage vehicle. How long have you been doing this? She asked, striping wires with practiced efficiency. The whole Christmas delivery thing? About 12 years, Nicholas replied. His focus on the delicate work. Started as a junior routing analyst, worked my way up to field operations. This is my 3rd year running the Pacific Northwest route solo. Solo? Harper glanced toward the house where Rudolph was presumably resting in her living room, having limped inside on what Nicholas insisted was just a sprained ligament. What about Rudolph usually just handles the guidance. I do the actual deliveries. A shadow crossed his face. Though after tonight's crash, I'm not sure I'll be trusted with a route again. Harper recognized the tone, the same one she used when discussing failed experiments or rejected grant proposals. Hey, crashes happen. I've sent more drones into trees than I care to admit. Were any of those drones carrying the hopes and dreams of thousands of children? She paused in her work. That's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of joy, too, Nicholas said softly. There's nothing quite like seeing a child's face on Christmas morning, knowing you played a part in that magic, even if they never know you exist. Harper felt an unexpected tightness in her throat. I wouldn't know. Haven't celebrated Christmas since. She trailed off, focusing intently on the circuit board she was modifying. Since? Nicholas prompted gently. Since my grandmother died. 5 years ago. The words came out before she could stop them. She was the one who made Christmas special. After she was gone, it just felt empty, easier to treat it like any other day. Nicholas set down his tools and really looked at her. I'm sorry. Losing someone who brought magic into your life, that's hard. Magic, Harper said with a weak laugh. She would have loved all this, probably would have invited you in for cookies and asked a million questions about the North Pole. What kind of cookies? The question surprised her. Snickerdoodles. She made the best snickerdoodles in the state. Had some secret ingredient she never told anyone. Cardamom, Nicholas said quietly. Just a pinch. It makes all the difference. Harper's hands stilled. How could you possibly know that? He gave her a small smile. Rose Phillips, Hollybrook Falls. Submitted a cookie recipe to the North Pole database in 1987. We keep track of all the really good ones. Professional interest. There's a North Pole cookie database, Harper said faintly. Oh, the culinary archives are extensive. We take snacks very seriously in our line of work. He paused. She sounds like she was wonderful. She was. Harper blinked rapidly and grabbed another tool. So, this synthetic crystal, how do we calibrate it once it's assembled? Nicholas accepted the subject change gracefully. We'll need to expose it to a strong electromagnetic field while running a specific frequency pattern through the fiber optics. Think of it like tuning a very complicated instrument. They worked through the night, Harper's engineering expertise melding surprisingly well with Nicholas's more esoteric knowledge. She found herself genuinely enjoying the challenge, and, if she was honest, the company. Nicholas had a dry sense of humor that caught her off guard, and his enthusiasm for the work was infectious. Try it now, Harper said, connecting the last wire. Nicholas carefully inserted their makeshift crystal into the navigation housing. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the entire sleigh began to hum, a low, musical tone that Harper felt in her bones. The holographic displays flickered to life, showing star charts and routes that made her dizzy to look at. It's working! Nicholas laughed, the sound bright and genuine. Harper, you're a genius! Well, I don't know about genius, she said, fighting a pleased smile. But I am pretty good with... He hugged her. It was quick, enthusiastic, and over before Harper could properly react. But in that brief moment, she was enveloped in warmth and that cinnamon pine ozone scent, and something in her chest fluttered like a bird trying to escape. Sorry, Nicholas said, stepping back with pink cheeks. I got carried away. It's just, you have no idea what this means. The children on my route. It's fine, Harper interrupted, her own face warm. I get it. Project success enthusiasm. Happens all the time in the lab. It absolutely did not happen all the time in the lab. An awkward silence stretched between them until Rudolph limped into the garage, his nose casting red light across the tools and equipment. He butted his head against Nicholas's shoulder with a soft rumble. I know, buddy, Nicholas murmured, but we still need to fix your leg and the temporal stabilizer before we can fly. I've been thinking about that, Harper said, grateful for the distraction. For the leg, what if we create a supportive brace using some of my drone parts? Carbon fiber is incredibly light but strong. That could work. What about the temporal stabilizer? Harper bit her lip. That's trickier. I'd need to understand more about how your time compression technology works. Nicholas's eyes lit up. I could show you, not the classified stuff, but the basic principles. If you're interested, she was. Despite every logical part of her brain screaming that this was impossible, Harper was fascinated. Yeah, okay. But first, when's the last time you ate? He blinked. Ah, yesterday. Maybe? Time moves strangely during the season. Right, magical Christmas elf, helper, or not, you need food. Come on. Harper led the way back to her house, very carefully not thinking about why she cared whether he'd eaten. I've got leftover pizza and... She opened her fridge and sighed. And not much else. I haven't exactly been shopping. Pizza's perfect, Nicholas assured her. Though I don't suppose you have any hot chocolate? Harper rummaged through her cabinets. I might have some packets somewhere. Ah! She produced a box of Swiss Miss triumphantly, then noticed Nicholas's expression. What? Packets, he said mournfully. Oh, Harper, no wonder you've lost touch with Christmas magic. It's perfectly good hot chocolate. It's perfectly adequate brown water. He rolled up his sleeves. Where's your milk? Cream? Chocolate chips? I have milk, Harper said defensively. Why do I need the other things? Nicholas looked at her like she'd asked why she needed oxygen. I'm going to make you proper hot chocolate, the kind that makes you believe in miracles. Harper leaned against the counter, watching with amusement as he commandeered her kitchen. So even magical Christmas helpers are chocolate snobs? Especially magical Christmas helpers. Do you have any idea how cold it gets flying around the stratosphere? Good hot chocolate is essential. He paused in his rummaging. Vanilla extract? Top shelf. Cinnamon? Spice rack. Candy canes? It's December 23rd and I live alone. What do you think? Nicholas shook his head sadly. We have so much work to do. Harper found herself laughing. I thought we were fixing your sleigh, not my holiday spirit. Why not both? He flashed her a grin that did dangerous things to her equilibrium. Now, watch and learn. As Nicholas worked, melting chocolate with the focused intensity of a scientist conducting a crucial experiment, Harper found herself studying him. Without his formal coat, in just a deep green Henley and dark pants, he looked almost normal, except for the way his eyes seemed to hold starlight, and how the kitchen felt warmer with him in it, and the fact that her previously Grinch-like heart was doing decidedly un-Grinch-like things. Here, Nicholas said, handing her a mug. Fair warning, this might ruin you for all other hot chocolate. Harper took a skeptical sip and nearly moaned. It was rich, complex, with layers of flavor that unfolded on her tongue. The warmth spread through her chest and out to her fingertips, carrying with it a feeling of home. Oh, she breathed. See? Nicholas sipped his own mug, looking pleased. Sometimes the old ways are worth preserving. They stood in comfortable silence, the kitchen golden with warm light while snow continued to fall outside. Harper couldn't remember the last time someone had made her anything, let alone with such care. Thank you, she said quietly. For the chocolate? It's the least I could do after you saved my mission. We haven't saved it yet, Harper reminded him. We still have major repairs to finish. Details, Nicholas said with a wave of his hand. I have faith in us. Us, such a small word to cause such a large flutter in her chest. Come on, she said, setting down her mug with determination. Let's go look at this temporal stabilizer. The sooner we fix your sleigh, the sooner you can get back to your Christmas deliveries. The sooner you can leave. She didn't say, but as they headed back to the garage, shoulders brushing in the narrow hallway, Harper found herself hoping the repairs might take just a little longer than necessary. Okay, so let me get this straight, Harper said, staring at the holographic equations floating above Nicholas's journal. You're essentially creating localized time dilation fields to allow for global delivery in a single night? Exactly. Nicholas's face lit up with the joy of being understood. The sleigh exists in a quantum superposition, allowing us to be in multiple places simultaneously until observed. Harper paced around the garage, her mind racing. They'd been working for hours, and somewhere along the way, she'd stopped questioning the impossibility of it all and started treating it like any other engineering problem. But the energy requirements alone would be astronomical. "How do you power it?" "Christmas spirit," Nicholas said, then laughed at her expression. "I'm serious. The collective belief and joy of millions of people creates a measurable energy field. We just harness it." Belief as an energy source. Harper shook her head. "My physics professors would have a field day." "Your physics professors don't know everything," Nicholas pointed out gently. "Though I bet they'd love to see the math behind it." He pulled up another holographic display, this one showing flowing streams of light across a global map. Each stream pulsed with different colors and intensities, creating a breathtaking aurora of data. Every act of generosity, every moment of wonder, every child's laugh on Christmas morning, it all feeds into the network, he explained. The sleighs are designed to tap into that energy grid. Harper found herself reaching toward the display, mesmerized. "It's beautiful. It's also broken," Nicholas sighed, dismissing the hologram. "Without a functioning temporal stabilizer, I can't access the grid properly. I'll be stuck in linear time, which means delivering presents the old-fashioned way. One house at a time, no time dilation." He slumped against the workbench. "At that rate, I'd finish somewhere around Valentine's Day." Harper studied the damaged component, a sphere about the size of a softball, filled with intricate clockwork that seemed to move independently of any visible mechanism. Several gears were bent, and what looked like a crucial spring had snapped entirely. "The mechanical parts I can fix," she mused. "But these materials—" "Chronosteel," Nicholas supplied. "Forged in the temporal forges of—" "You know what? That's probably more information than you need. The point is, it's specifically designed to withstand temporal stress. And I'm guessing Home Depot doesn't carry it? Not in this dimension." Harper pulled off her glasses and cleaned them, a nervous habit when thinking. "Okay, but what if we're approaching this wrong? Instead of trying to replicate your materials, what if we work with what we have?" "I'm listening." "You said the sleigh creates localized time dilation fields, right? What if instead of one big field, we create multiple smaller ones, like a mesh network instead of a single broadcast tower?" Nicholas straightened slowly, multiple stabilizers working in harmony. "Exactly. Each one doesn't have to be as strong if they're sharing the load." Harper was already sketching on her tablet. "We could use standard materials, steel, copper, maybe some of those rare earth magnets, to create a series of smaller temporal regulators. But the synchronization would be incredibly complex," Nicholas said, though his eyes were bright with possibility. "We'd need perfect harmony between all units, or the temporal field could collapse." "Lucky for you," Harper said with a grin. "Synchronization algorithms happen to be my specialty. Remember that drone swarm project I published last year? The one where you had 30 drones dancing in perfect formation?" "Harper, that was brilliant." She felt her cheeks warm at his enthusiasm. "Well, this is basically the same principle, just with time instead of position." They dove into the work with renewed energy. Harper modified her drone control algorithms, while Nicholas crafted the smaller stabilizer units using her materials and something he called creative quantum engineering. She didn't ask too many questions about that part. She was learning that some aspects of Christmas magic were better accepted than analyzed. "Pass me that wrench?" Nicholas asked, elbow deep in the sleigh's temporal engine. Harper handed it over, their fingers brushing. She tried to ignore the little spark that seemed to jump between them. "So, 12 years doing this. Did you always want to be a Christmas helper?" Nicholas chuckled. "Actually, I wanted to be a toy designer. Spent years studying engineering and child psychology. Had all these ideas for educational toys that would spark wonder and creativity. What happened? I got recruited." He emerged from the engine compartment with a smudge of grease on his cheek. "Turns out, my unusual combination of skills was exactly what the delivery department needed, someone who understood both the technical side and the magic of childhood wonder." Harper found herself reaching out to wipe the grease away, then caught herself and handed him a rag instead. "Do you miss it? The toy designing? Sometimes, he admitted. But this work, there's nothing like it. Being part of something so much bigger than yourself. Keeping wonder alive in the world. He paused. What about you? Always wanted to be an aerospace engineer? Pretty much. Grandma bought me a telescope when I was 8, and that was it. I was going to build rockets and explore the stars. Harper smiled at the memory. She never once told me it was impractical or too hard. Just kept buying me books and science kits and cheering me on. She sounds like she understood the importance of believing in dreams. Yeah, Harper said softly. She did. They worked in comfortable silence for a while, the garage filled with the soft sounds of tools and the occasional whir of Harper's equipment. Rudolph had made himself a nest in the corner using some old moving blankets, his nose providing ambient lighting. Try it now, Harper said, initiating the synchronization sequence. The 6 smaller stabilizers they'd built began to hum in harmony, creating a resonance that made the air itself seem to sing. The damaged sphere in the sleigh's core suddenly sprang to life, its broken gears moving in impossible ways as the temporal field took hold. It's working! Nicholas grabbed Harper's hands, spinning her around in an impromptu dance. Harper, you did it! You actually did it! She laughed, dizzy from the spinning and his infectious joy. We did it. I couldn't have built those units without your expertise. They came to a stop, still holding hands, faces flushed and eyes bright. Nicholas was looking at her like she'd hung the stars, and Harper felt something shift in her chest. A warmth that had nothing to do with the exercise. Harper, he said softly. A loud chime from the sleigh made them both jump apart. The control panel was lighting up like a Christmas tree. Literally, Harper noted with amusement. Navigation online, Nicholas read, his professional demeanor returning. Temporal stabilizers functioning at 94% capacity. Flight systems. He frowned, still showing errors. The aerodynamic controls took more damage than I thought. Harper moved to examine the sleigh's exterior, running her hands along the elegant curves. Your flight surfaces are actually pretty similar to aircraft design. I could probably... She stopped, feeling a deep gouge in the wood. Nicholas, this is bad. The whole left runner is cracked. He joined her, face grave as he assessed the damage. Without that, steering will be nearly impossible. I'd be flying in circles. What's it made of? Enchanted oak from the forever forest? It's grown specifically for... Let me guess, Harper interrupted. We can't get a replacement. Not in time, no. Harper stared at the damaged runner, her mind cycling through possibilities. What if we reinforced it? Carbon fiber wrap with an epoxy resin. It's what we use to repair critical stress fractures in aerospace applications. Would it hold up under magical stress? Only one way to find out. Harper was already pulling materials from her supplies. Though I should probably mention I've never repaired a magical sleigh before, and I've never worked with an aerospace engineer before, Nicholas said with a smile. Seems like a night for firsts. As Harper prepared the carbon fiber wrap, she found herself stealing glances at Nicholas. He was carefully applying some sort of shimmering paste to the crack. Binding sap from silver bells, he'd explained, as if that made perfect sense. The garage's fluorescent lights caught the silver threads in his dark hair, and when he concentrated, he bit his lower lip in a way that was entirely too distracting. So, she said, needing conversation to steady her thoughts, what happens after Christmas? Do you get a vacation? Return to the North Pole? Usually there's a debrief period. Then we start planning for the next year, toy trends to analyze, route optimizations to consider. He glanced at her. Though this year I might put in for some time off, maybe see more of the world when I'm not racing against the clock. Any particular part of the world? Harper kept her tone carefully neutral as she applied the first layer of carbon fiber. Oh, I don't know, Nicholas said casually. I've heard the Pacific Northwest is lovely when it's not Christmas Eve. Great coffee, innovative tech scene, brilliant engineers. Harper's hand slipped slightly. That's true. We do have good coffee. Maybe you could show me around sometime, he continued, his own hand steady on his work, when things are less hectic. If you wanted, I mean. Yeah, I could do that. Harper's heart was doing complicated gymnastics in her chest. Though I should warn you, my tour guide skills are limited to the university campus and the 3 coffee shops between here and the lab. Nicholas laughed. Sounds perfect to me. They finished the repair as dawn began to creep through the garage windows. Harper had lost all sense of time. Appropriately enough, given their work on temporal mechanics, the sleigh now hummed with barely contained energy, ready to return to its impossible mission. We should test it, Nicholas said, though he looked reluctant. Make sure everything's working properly before I head out. Harper nodded, trying to ignore the sinking feeling in her stomach. Of course he had to leave. That was the whole point of the repairs. Children were counting on him. Just a quick flight around the neighborhood, he continued. Want to come? Harper stared at him. You're asking me to take a ride in a magical sleigh that we just fixed with carbon fiber and synchronization algorithms. Well, when you put it like that, it sounds weird. Nicholas grinned and held out his hand. Trust me? She looked at his outstretched hand, at the impossible sleigh, at Rudolph, who was now prancing in place with anticipation. Every logical part of her brain screamed that this was insane. But sometime during the night, between quantum equations and hot chocolate, logic had taken a back seat to possibility. Okay, she said, taking his hand. But if we crash again? I'm billing Santa for my therapy. Nicholas helped her into the sleigh, which was surprisingly comfortable despite looking like something from a Victorian Christmas card. Fair warning, he said, settling beside her and taking the reins. The first time can be a bit intense. Intense how? You'll see. He glanced at her with a mix of excitement and something else. Affection? Ready to see the world from a different perspective, Harper Phillips? Before she could answer, he flicked the reins. Rudolph leaped forward, and Harper's garage door opened of its own accord. They rolled out onto her driveway, picking up speed, and then they were flying. Not the smooth acceleration of an airplane or the mechanical lift of a helicopter. This was pure, impossible, magical flight. The sleigh left the ground like it was simply choosing to ignore gravity, and Harper's stomach did a delightful loop as her neighborhood fell away below. Oh my God, she breathed, gripping Nicholas's arm. We're actually flying. I'm flying in a magic sleigh. This is happening. Nicholas grinned at her reaction. Look up. She did, and gasped. The dawn sky had erupted in ribbons of light, aurora borealis, dancing directly overhead in impossible colors. The light seemed to reach down and embrace the sleigh, wrapping them in warmth and wonder. The Christmas energy grid, Nicholas explained, his voice soft with reverence. When everything's working properly, we can see it, navigate by it. Harper watched the lights dance, her scientific mind trying and failing to categorize the phenomenon. It's incredible. You're incredible, Nicholas said, then seemed to realize what he'd said. I mean, your work. The repairs. Incredible work. They flew in silence for a moment. The town spread below them like a Christmas village. Harper could see early morning joggers who had no idea magic was passing overhead, houses beginning to light up as families started their Christmas Eve preparations. There, Nicholas pointed. See that house with the blue roof? That's the Martins. They have 3 kids, Sophia, Emma, and little James. This is James's first Christmas, where he really understands what's happening. You know them? I know all the families on my route, Nicholas said simply. That's Mrs. Chen's house. She always leaves out the most amazing homemade cookies. And over there, that's where the Thompsons live. They're having a tough year, but the grandparents secretly saved up to make sure the kids have a good Christmas. Harper listened to him describe family after family, each one clearly special to him. This wasn't just a delivery job, it was a calling. We should head back, Nicholas said eventually, though he seemed as reluctant as she felt. I need to load up the presents and get started. Already running behind schedule. The landing was smooth as silk, Rudolph prancing proudly as they touched down in Harper's driveway. But as Nicholas helped her out of the sleigh, his expression grew serious. Harper, I can't thank you enough. Without you, Christmas would have been... Hey, she interrupted. We're a good team. That's all. We are, aren't we? He was standing very close enough that she could see flecks of gold in his green eyes. Harper, Nicholas, she said quickly, before he could finish whatever he was about to say. You have deliveries to make. Kids counting on you, remember? He nodded, stepping back. Right. Of course. The mission. But as he began loading his impossible bag of presents into the sleigh, Harper couldn't shake the feeling that she was letting something precious slip away. The logical part of her brain, the part that had ruled her life for years, said this was for the best. He had his world, she had hers. But for the first time in a long time, logic felt like a cold comfort against the warmth he'd brought into her life. Harper stood in her driveway, shivering in the morning cold as Nicholas finished his flight preparations. She'd changed into warmer clothes. Jeans, boots, and her thickest sweater. But the chill she felt had little to do with the temperature. That should do it, Nicholas said, patting the sleigh's side. The vehicle hummed with readiness, fully repaired and eager to return to its purpose. All systems showing green. The synchronization mesh is holding perfectly. Good, Harper said, her voice carefully neutral. That's good. Nicholas turned to her, something unreadable in his expression. Harper, wait, she interrupted, an idea suddenly striking her. Your route? You said you're already behind schedule, right? How long will it take to complete your deliveries? He consulted his glowing pocket watch with a frown. With the delays from the crash and repairs, I'll need every second of temporal dilation to finish by Christmas morning. It'll be close. What if I could help optimize your route? Harper found herself saying, I mean, that's literally what I do. Create efficient flight paths for autonomous systems. If you showed me your delivery list, I could probably shave off significant time. Nicholas's face brightened. You do that? It's just math, Harper said quickly, though her racing heart suggested otherwise. Besides, I'd hate for all our repair work to be wasted because of inefficient routing. 20 minutes later, Harper's dining room table was covered in holographic maps, delivery lists, and what appeared to be a live feed of global Christmas energy patterns. She'd pulled up her route optimization software on her laptop, trying to integrate it with Nicholas's more mystical navigation system. Okay, so you have 847 stops across Washington, Oregon, and Northern California, Harper muttered, fingers flying across her keyboard. Current route has you zigzagging back and forth, but if we cluster by neighborhood density and factor in the temporal dilation zones, you're amazing, Nicholas said softly. Harper looked up to find him watching her with undisguised admiration. I'm just applying standard optimization algorithms. No, you're taking something you've never seen before and making it better. Do you know how rare that is? Most people can't even accept that my world exists, let alone improve it. Their eyes met across the table, and Harper felt that dangerous warmth spreading through her chest again. Well, she said, clearing her throat, maybe you've just been working with the wrong people. Maybe I have, he agreed quietly. The moment stretched between them until Rudolph's impatient snort from outside broke the spell. Right, Harper said, returning to her screen. So if you hit the Portland suburbs first, then swing down through Salem. They worked together seamlessly, Harper's analytical approach complementing Nicholas's intuitive understanding of Christmas energy flows. She found herself getting caught up in the complexity of it all, not just the routing, but the stories behind each stop. The Andersons always leave out carrots for Rudolph, Nicholas explained, pointing to one house, and the Lee family writes the most beautiful thank you notes, even though they know they'll never be answered. Do you ever want to answer? Harper asked. Let them know their letters are read? Sometimes, Nicholas admitted, but the mystery is part of the magic, knowing for certain. It changes things. Harper thought about that as she refined the route. Wasn't that what had happened to her? She'd known for certain that magic didn't exist, that Christmas was just another day, that wonder was for children. And now here she was, planning flight paths for a man who delivered joy to the world. There, she said finally, sending the optimized route to Nicholas's navigation crystal. That should cut your delivery time by 23%, even accounting for cookie breaks. Cookie breaks are essential, Nicholas said seriously, then pulled her into another spontaneous hug. Harper, this is perfect. You've saved Christmas twice in one night. This time, Harper let herself relax into the embrace, breathing in his cinnamon pine scent. "Just doing my part for childhood wonder," she murmured against his shoulder. When they pulled apart, Nicholas's hands lingered on her arms. "Harper, I need to ask you something." Her heart hammered. "Okay, come with me." She blinked. "What?" "On the route? Come with me." His eyes were bright with excitement. "You've never experienced Christmas from this side. Let me show you what you've been missing, what your grandmother knew was worth believing in." "Nicholas, I can't just. I have work, and my plants need watering. And it's Christmas Eve," he said gently. "Your lab is closed. Your plants will survive one night, and you've already done the impossible by helping fix my sleigh. Why not do one more impossible thing?" Harper's logical mind presented a dozen reasons why this was a terrible idea, but looking at Nicholas's hopeful face, at the magical sleigh waiting outside, at the adventure he was offering, she found her resistance crumbling. "What about the regulations?" she asked weakly. "Surely there are rules about civilians in the sleigh." "Helpers are allowed to bring one apprentice per season for training purposes," Nicholas said with a mischievous grin. "Congratulations, you're officially my Christmas Eve apprentice. I didn't agree to—" "Please, Harper." His voice went soft, sincere. "I know you've shut Christmas out for 5 years, but maybe it's time to let it back in. Let me show you why this matters, why your grandmother was right to believe." Harper thought about her empty house, her plans to work through the holiday, the cold efficiency of her life without magic. Then she thought about the warmth in Nicholas's eyes, the impossibility of flight, the dancing aurora they'd seen from the sleigh. "I'll need a warmer coat," she said. Nicholas's smile could have powered the entire Christmas grid. An hour later, Harper found herself dressed in what Nicholas called proper Christmas Eve attire, a rich red coat lined with impossibly warm fur, ethically sourced Arctic fox. He did assured her they donate during shedding season, sturdy boots that seemed to repel both cold and moisture, and thick gloves that somehow didn't impede her dexterity. "How do I look?" she asked, feeling slightly ridiculous. "Like you belong," Nicholas said simply, and something in his tone made her cheeks warm. The sleigh was loaded with Nicholas's impossible bag, which Harper had watched him fill with presents that shouldn't have fit, drawn from some dimensional pocket that made her physicist's brain ache. Rudolph was practically dancing with eagerness, his nose glowing brighter as the sun set. "Last chance to back out," Nicholas offered as he helped her into the sleigh. "Are you trying to get rid of me?" "Never," he said quickly, then seemed to catch himself. "I just want to make sure you're certain. Once we start, we're committed until the route is done." Harper settled into the seat beside him, pulling the lap blanket over her legs. "I'm certain." "Show me the magic, Nicholas Ellis." He took the reins with practiced ease, and Harper felt the sleigh's energy change, becoming eager, alive. "Hold on tight. The temporal shift can be disorienting at first." "Temporal shift? Remember how I said we exist in multiple states simultaneously? You're about to experience that firsthand." Before Harper could process what that meant, Nicholas called out something in a language she didn't recognize, and Rudolph leaped forward. The world blurred, colors streaming past like watercolors in rain. Harper's stomach dropped as they shot skyward, but this time she was ready for it, exhilarated rather than terrified. Then reality shifted. Harper gasped as time seemed to stretch and compress simultaneously. She could see multiple versions of the sleigh occupying the same space, where they were, where they had been, where they were going. The sensation was like looking at a time-lapse photograph while living inside it. "Breathe," Nicholas said softly, his hand finding hers. "Let your mind adjust. Don't try to understand it all at once." Harper focused on his touch, using it as an anchor as her perception slowly stabilized. The world still moved strangely around them, clouds zipping past while the ground below seemed frozen, but she could function. "This is how you do it," she breathed. "You're not moving faster. You're moving through time differently." "Exactly." Nicholas squeezed her hand before returning it to the reins. "Ready for our first stop?" They descended toward a modest house decorated with multicolored lights. Nicholas brought the sleigh to a hover on the roof with impossible precision. "The Washingtons," he said, pulling out a handful of presents. Single mom, 3 kids. She works 2 jobs to make ends meet. But she always finds a way to make Christmas special. How do we get in? Nicholas grinned. Watch and learn, apprentice. He stepped onto the roof and approached the chimney. As Harper watched in fascination, he seemed to shimmer and compress, sliding down the chimney like smoke. She scrambled to the edge of the roof, peering down the dark shaft. How? Your turn! Nicholas's voice called from below. Just trust the magic. Trust the magic, Harper muttered. Right, because that's a scientific approach. But she positioned herself at the chimney's edge, closed her eyes, and let herself fall. The sensation was indescribable, like becoming liquid, flowing down through space that should have been too small. Then she was reforming in the living room, Nicholas steadying her as she found her feet. I just violated several laws of physics, she said faintly. Only the boring ones, Nicholas assured her, already arranging presents under a small but lovingly decorated tree. Look at this. He showed her a handmade ornament, clearly a child's work, featuring a lopsided reindeer made of popsicle sticks. Emily Washington, age 6. She made this at school. Told her teacher it was for Rudolph. Harper felt her throat tighten. That's adorable. That's Christmas, Nicholas corrected gently. Come on, help me arrange these. The big one goes in the back. That's the bike her mom saved all year to afford. They worked quickly but carefully, Nicholas showing Harper how to arrange gifts for maximum Christmas morning impact. She found herself getting into it, imagining the children's faces when they saw the tree. Cookies, Nicholas said, pointing to a plate on the mantel. Want to do the honors? Harper picked up a slightly burnt sugar cookie. Shouldn't you eat it? Apprentices need to keep their strength up too. She bit into the cookie, which was indeed burnt but made with obvious love. Not bad. The burnt ones are sometimes the best, Nicholas said, pocketing a cookie for later. Made with extra enthusiasm. They climbed back up the chimney, an even stranger sensation than going down, and returned to the sleigh. As they lifted off, Harper looked back at the little house with its cheerful lights. 3 kids are going to have a magical morning because of you, she said. Because of us, Nicholas corrected. Your route optimization got us here with time to spare. We're a team. Remember? They flew on through the night, stop after stop, each house telling its own story. Harper helped arrange presents, sampled cookies ranging from gourmet to questionable, and learned to navigate chimneys like a pro. Nicholas shared the histories and hopes of each family, his knowledge and caring seemingly endless. How do you remember them all? Harper asked as they left a particularly memorable stop, a foster family who'd taken in 3 siblings just before the holidays. How do you remember all your equations and algorithms? Nicholas countered. When something matters to you, you find room for it. The night took on a dreamlike quality. Time moved in strange currents around them. Sometimes Harper felt like they'd been flying for hours, other times mere minutes. The temporal dilation made her watch useless, but her body didn't seem to tire. The Christmas energy Nicholas had talked about seemed to sustain them both. Look, Nicholas said as they soared over Portland. See how the grid is glowing brighter? Harper could see it, streams of light connecting houses, pulsing with warmth and joy. It's beautiful, like a living constellation. Each light is a belief, a hope, an act of love, Nicholas explained. We're not just delivering presents, we're completing a circuit, keeping the magic flowing. They landed on an apartment building's roof, and Nicholas frowned at his list. Then winds. Apartment 4B. This might be tricky, no chimney. Window? Harper suggested, sealed for winter. But he studied the building's layout. There's a maintenance shaft that connects to their unit's ventilation system, if we can compress enough. You're talking about turning us into air molecules and traveling through the vents? Do you have a better idea? Harper considered. Actually, what if we use the quantum superposition principle? Instead of physically entering, we exist in a state where we're simultaneously inside and outside until observed? Nicholas stared at her. Harper, that's brilliant. I don't know if a human apprentice has ever managed it, but theoretically, only one way to find out. Harper was surprised by her own confidence. Somewhere between the 10th and 20th house, she'd stopped questioning the impossible and started embracing it. Nicholas took her hand. "We'll do it together. Focus on the apartment interior. I'll share my memory of it from last year." Harper closed her eyes and suddenly she could see it. A small but tidy apartment, a tree in the corner, 2 children asleep in bunk beds. She held the image in her mind, feeling Nicholas's presence beside her, and willed herself to be in both places at once. Reality flickered. For a moment, Harper existed in quantum flux. On the roof and in the apartment, solid and ethereal, here and there. Then, like a wave function collapsing, she was inside, Nicholas materializing beside her with a look of awe. "You did it," he whispered. "Harper, do you realize what you just accomplished? Even seasoned helpers struggle with quantum positioning." "I had a good teacher," she said, trying to ignore how her skin tingled from the transition. "Come on, let's spread some Christmas magic." They placed the presents silently, Harper pausing to straighten a handmade angel atop the small tree. As they prepared to leave, she noticed a note on the coffee table, written in careful child's handwriting. "Dear Santa's helper, Mom said maybe you're too busy to bring presents this year because money is tight. That's okay. Can you just make sure my little brother gets something? He still believes. Love, Lily, age 9. Harper's eyes burned. She watched Nicholas pull an extra gift from his bag. Something that hadn't been on the list, she was certain. He placed it carefully where Lily would find it, labeled with her name. "Always have extras," he said quietly. "For the ones who try to be too grown up too fast." They quantum shifted back to the roof, and Harper had to wipe her eyes before they could continue. That was. How do you handle that? The weight of all their hopes? By remembering it's not a weight, Nicholas said gently. It's a privilege. To be trusted with their dreams, to play a part in their joy. There's nothing heavier or lighter than that. They flew on through the night, the route taking them through cities and suburbs, wealthy neighborhoods and struggling communities. Harper saw Christmas through 1,000 different lenses. Families who had everything, families who had nothing but each other, children who believed with their whole hearts, and parents who sacrificed to keep that belief alive. "The Kovacs," Nicholas announced as they approached a farmhouse surrounded by snow-covered fields. "Croatian family. They have a tradition of leaving out Lissitars, decorated gingerbread hearts." Sure enough, a plate of beautiful heart-shaped cookies waited by the fireplace, along with a note in careful English for Santa's helper and friend. "They left too," Harper noticed. "They always do." Nicholas smiled. "Started 3 years ago. Mrs. Kovac says anyone working on Christmas Eve must have a partner to share the long night." Harper picked up one of the gingerbread hearts, admiring the intricate icing work. "She sounds wise." "Try it," Nicholas encouraged. "Lissitars are special." Harper bit into the cookie and gasped. It wasn't just the taste, though the blend of honey and spices was perfect. It was the feeling that came with it. Warmth, welcome, the sense of being embraced by generations of tradition. "Oh," she breathed. "Food made with love carries its own magic," Nicholas said, savoring his own cookie. "Especially at Christmas." As they arranged presents under the Kovacs tree, hand-carved wooden toys mixed with modern electronics, Harper found herself thinking about her grandmother's snickerdoodles. How much love had been baked into each batch? How much magic had she been too blind to see? "Hey," Nicholas said softly, noticing her distant expression. "You okay?" "Yeah," Harper said, surprising herself to find it was true. "Just remembering. Good memories? The best." She placed the last present and stood. "Thank you for reminding me." Nicholas's smile was tender. "Thank you for being here, for seeing all this with fresh eyes. You're reminding me why I love this job." They continued through the night, each stop bringing new wonders. Harper learned to read the Christmas energy grid, to spot which houses needed extra care, to move through the world in ways that defied every law she'd studied. More importantly, she learned to see the love that underpinned it all. Parents staying up late to assemble toys, children leaving out carefully chosen cookies, neighbors helping neighbors, strangers showing kindness. "Is it always like this?" she asked as they soared over San Francisco Bay, the city lights reflecting off the water like earthbound stars. No, Nicholas admitted. Some years are harder. Some families are going through loss or struggle, but that makes the magic even more important. Sometimes a small gesture on Christmas morning can remind people that they're not alone. They were nearing the end of the route now. Harper's optimized path had worked perfectly, giving them time for every delivery without the desperate rush Nicholas had feared. She should have been exhausted, but the Christmas energy thrummed through her veins like cosmic caffeine. Last stop, Nicholas announced as they approached a small apartment complex. The Salazars. Maria is 7, Jose is 5. Their parents work at the hospital, both pulling double shifts to cover the holidays. The apartment was tiny but filled with love. Handmade paper snowflakes covered the windows, and a small nativity scene held pride of place on a side table. The tree was barely 3 feet tall, but decorated with obvious care. Harper helped Nicholas arrange the modest pile of gifts, making sure each was positioned perfectly. As they prepared to leave, she noticed a piece of paper tucked behind the nativity scene. Nicholas saw her looking and nodded permission. It was a drawing, 2 stick figures in a sleigh being pulled by a reindeer with a red nose. Above it, in careful crayon letters, "Thank you for making Christmas magic." "They know?" Harper whispered. "Children know lots of things adults forget," Nicholas said. "They may not understand the quantum mechanics of it, but they feel the truth." Harper carefully returned the drawing to its place, throat tight with emotion. As they made their way back to the roof, she felt the weight of the night settling over her. Not tiredness, but a fullness of experience that threatened to overflow. "We did it," Nicholas said as they climbed into the sleigh. "Every house, every family. And with 17 minutes to spare before Christmas morning. We make a good team," Harper said, echoing his words from earlier. "The best," Nicholas agreed, but there was something sad in his smile now. "Harper, dawn's coming. The temporal fields will collapse soon. I need to get you home." Home. Her empty house, her logical life, her world without magic. Harper nodded, not trusting her voice. The flight back to Hollybrook Falls was quiet. Harper watched the lightening sky, feeling the Christmas energy grid begin to fade as morning approached. Soon it would be invisible again, hidden from ordinary sight. Soon this would all be just an impossible memory. They landed in her driveway as the first rays of sun painted the mountains pink. The sleigh looked different in daylight, more ordinary, though Harper could still see the shimmer of magic around its edges. "I should return your coat," she said, not moving to take it off. "Keep it," Nicholas said. A reminder that tonight really happened. They climbed out of the sleigh, standing awkwardly in the dawn light. Rudolph nuzzled Harper's hand, and she scratched behind his ears automatically. "So," she said, "you'll go back to the North Pole now?" "For debriefing, yes. Then planning for next year begins." He paused. "Harper, I meant what I said about coming back, about seeing you again." "Nicholas." She took a breath. "We're from different worlds, literally. You live at the North Pole delivering magic. I live here, building drones and analyzing data. How could that ever work?" "I don't know," he admitted. "But didn't we just spend the night proving that impossible things can work if you approach them creatively?" Harper's laugh was shaky. "I don't think there's an algorithm for this." "Then maybe," Nicholas stepped closer, "we need to trust something other than algorithms." He was right there, close enough to touch, eyes full of hope and something deeper. Harper could kiss him. She wanted to kiss him. But then what? Long distance was hard enough without adding interdimensional travel to the mix. "I can't," she whispered. "I'm sorry, I can't go through losing someone again. It's easier to shut it all out," Nicholas finished gently. "I understand. But Harper, your grandmother wouldn't want you to close your heart because you lost her. She'd want you to love as fiercely as she did." "Don't," Harper said, tears threatening. "Please, just. Thank you for tonight, for showing me the magic. But we both know this is where it ends." Nicholas was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out something small, pressing it into her hand. "Merry Christmas, Harper Phillips. Thank you for saving my route. And for reminding me why Christmas is worth believing in." He climbed back into the sleigh before she could respond. Rudolph gave her one last nuzzle, then positioned himself for takeoff. "Nicholas!" Harper called out. But he was already airborne, the sleigh rising into the morning sky. She watched until it disappeared, a tear finally escaping down her cheek. Only then did she look at what he'd placed in her hand. It was a small crystal snowflake, delicate as lace but warm to the touch. As she watched, it pulsed with soft light, blue and green and silver, like the aurora they'd flown through together. A reminder that impossible things could be real, that magic existed, that for one night she'd been part of something extraordinary. Harper clutched the snowflake and went inside, not sure if her heart was breaking or finally starting to heal. Harper didn't sleep. She sat in her kitchen, still wearing the magical red coat, staring at the crystal snowflake as morning light filled the room. It pulsed gently in her palm, its rhythm matching her heartbeat. Every so often, she could swear she saw images in its facets. Nicholas's smile, Rudolph's glowing nose, the aurora dancing overhead. Her laptop sat open on the table, displaying the route optimization algorithm she'd created. Such ordinary code for such an extraordinary purpose. The numbers and variables looked the same, but Harper knew she'd never see them the same way again. Each coordinate represented a family, a story, a small piece of the vast tapestry of human hope. Her phone buzzed. A text from her colleague Marcus. "Merry Christmas. Lab's open tomorrow if you want to run those propulsion tests." Yesterday she would have replied immediately, grateful for the distraction of work. Today, the thought of returning to her sterile lab felt like trying to fit back into clothes that had shrunk. How could she calibrate instruments when she'd calibrated magic? How could she test normal flight systems when she'd soared through quantum space? The doorbell rang, startling her from her reverie. Harper glanced at the clock, 7:47 a.m. on Christmas morning. Who would be visiting now? She opened the door to find Mrs. Chen from 3 houses down, holding a covered plate and beaming. "Merry Christmas, Harper dear. I know you usually spend the day alone, but I couldn't let that happen this year." She pressed the plate into Harper's hands, homemade cinnamon rolls. "My grandmother's recipe." "Mrs. Chen, thank you." Harper was touched by the gesture. "But why?" "The funniest thing," Mrs. Chen continued. "I woke up this morning with the strongest feeling that I needed to check on you. Make sure you weren't alone." Isn't that odd? Harper thought of Nicholas's words about the Christmas energy grid, about how acts of kindness rippled outward. "Not odd at all," she said softly. "Would you like to come in for coffee?" "Oh, I couldn't impose. Please." Harper surprised herself with the urgency in her voice. "I'd really like the company." Mrs. Chen's face lit up. "Well, if you insist. I'll just pop back home and grab my husband. He makes the most wonderful hot chocolate, an old family recipe with a secret ingredient." "Cardamom?" Harper guessed, thinking of her grandmother. Mrs. Chen's eyes widened. "How did you know?" "Lucky guess," Harper said, smile wobbly. "I'll put the coffee on." As Mrs. Chen bustled away, Harper noticed something else. The Washingtons from across the street were outside, children already playing with new toys despite the early hour. Emily Washington was showing off a toy reindeer to her brothers, making it fly through the air with swooping motions. "It's magic," the little girl announced loudly. "Just like the real ones." Harper's throat tightened. She gave Emily a small wave, and the girl beamed back, gap-toothed and glowing with joy. Back inside, Harper set about preparing for guests, a foreign concept in recent years. As she arranged Mrs. Chen's cinnamon rolls on a plate, she noticed her hands were shaking slightly. The crystal snowflake sat on the counter, casting rainbow reflections across the kitchen. What had Nicholas done to her? One night, just one impossible, magical night, and her carefully ordered world was coming apart at the seams. Or maybe it was coming together in a new pattern, one that allowed for both logic and wonder. The Chens arrived with hot chocolate supplies and warm conversation. Then the Washingtons knocked, Emily insisting on showing Harper her new reindeer. Before Harper knew it, her kitchen was full of neighbors she'd barely spoken to in 5 years, all drawn by some indefinable Christmas magnetism. "You seem different, dear," Mrs. Chen observed, studying Harper over her mug of cocoa. "There's something lighter about you. I had an interesting night, Harper said carefully. Oh? Mr. Washington perked up. See anything unusual? Could have sworn I heard sleigh bells around midnight, but Sandra said I was dreaming. You weren't dreaming, little Emily said matter-of-factly. I saw the sleigh. It was on our roof. The reindeer had a shiny red nose and everything. The adults chuckled indulgently, but Harper caught Emily's eye and winked. The girl's face lit up with the joy of being believed. As the impromptu gathering continued, Harper found herself really seeing her neighbors for the first time. Mrs. Chen, who'd lost her son but still radiated warmth. The Washingtons, struggling financially but rich in love. The Kowalskis from next door, spending their first Christmas as empty nesters. Each person carrying their own stories, their own magic. I should go, Harper announced suddenly, an idea crystallizing. I mean, this has been wonderful, but there's something I need to do. On Christmas morning? Mrs. Chen asked. Especially on Christmas morning. Harper grabbed her keys and the crystal snowflake. Thank you all for coming, for reminding me that I have neighbors, friends. Can we do this again? Maybe make it a tradition? I thought you didn't do Christmas traditions, Mr. Washington said gently. Harper thought of Nicholas, of flights through impossible skies, of children's faces she'd never see but would never forget. I'm starting to think traditions are what keep the magic alive. She left her neighbors exchanging surprised but pleased looks and drove across town, the crystal snowflake warm in her pocket. The streets were quiet, most families inside enjoying Christmas morning, but Harper knew where she needed to go. Hollybrook Falls Cemetery was peaceful under a light dusting of snow. Harper made her way to a familiar headstone, her footsteps the only sound in the stillness. Hi, Grandma, she said, kneeling beside the grave. I'm sorry I haven't visited. I've been hiding, I guess, from Christmas, from feelings, from everything that reminded me of you. She pulled out the crystal snowflake, watching it catch the morning light. But something happened last night, something you would have loved. I met someone who showed me that magic is real, that wonder isn't childish, that believing in impossible things is sometimes the most logical choice you can make. The snowflake pulsed brighter, as if responding to her words. Harper smiled through her tears. You tried to teach me that, didn't you? With your cookies and carols and insistence that Christmas was about more than presents. I'm sorry it took me so long to understand. She placed a kiss on her fingertips, then pressed them to the cold stone. I love you, and I promise, no more hiding from the magic. As she stood to leave, a flash of red caught her eye. There, perched on her grandmother's headstone, was a cardinal. It tilted its head at Harper, chirped once, then flew away. Harper's grandmother had always said cardinals were messengers from heaven, a belief Harper had dismissed as sweet but unscientific. Now, she wasn't so sure what to dismiss anymore. Back in her car, Harper sat for a moment, considering her options. She could go home, return to the gathering in her kitchen, try to recapture some shadow of normal life. Or, she pulled out her phone and opened her email, typing quickly. Marcus, thanks for the offer, but I won't be in the lab tomorrow. Or the next day. I'm taking some time off to work on a personal project, something that requires a different kind of innovation. Merry Christmas, Harper then, before she could second-guess herself, she drove to the university. The campus was deserted, buildings locked for the holiday, but Harper had her keycard, and the security guard knew her as the professor who practically lived in the aerospace lab. Merry Christmas, Dr. Phillips, the guard said, surprised. Thought even you would take today off. Just need to grab something, Harper assured him. Won't be long. In her office, Harper gathered specific items, her best laptop, several technical journals, her notes on quantum mechanics and theoretical physics. Then, on impulse, she grabbed the small framed photo from her desk, herself and her grandmother at Harper's PhD graduation, both beaming with pride. Back home, she found her kitchen empty but tidy, a note from Mrs. Chen thanking her for the lovely morning and insisting they do it again soon. Harper smiled, then got to work. She spread her materials across the dining room table and began sketching. Not flight paths or drone schematics, but something new. Something impossible. a communication device. If Nicholas's sleigh could exist in multiple dimensions, if presents could be delivered through quantum superposition, if belief itself could be harnessed as energy, then surely there was a way to bridge the gap between worlds, a way to send a signal across dimensional barriers. Harper worked through the day, fueled by leftover cinnamon rolls and determination. She applied everything she'd learned in the sleigh, every impossible principle Nicholas had shown her. The crystal snowflake sat beside her laptop, pulsing encouragement. "Okay," she muttered, chewing on her pencil. "If the aurora borealis can be crystallized to create quantum navigation, then theoretically, I could use the same principle in reverse. Create a resonance frequency that aligns with the Christmas energy grid." She coded for hours, algorithms taking shape that no peer review board would ever accept. But Harper wasn't working for publication anymore. She was working for possibility. As afternoon faded to evening, her prototype took shape, a modification to her ham radio setup, integrated with crystalline structures inspired by Nicholas's technology. It was ugly, held together with wire and hope, but the theoretical foundation was sound, or at least sound within the new physics she'd discovered. "Please work," Harper whispered, powering up the device. She'd tuned it to what she hoped was the frequency of Christmas magic, using the snowflakes pulsing as a baseline. Static filled the air, but there was something else underneath. A pattern, a rhythm. Harper fine-tuned desperately, chasing the signal. And then, remarkable night. Delivery completion rate at 100%. Temporal efficiency improved by 23%. Harper's heart leaped. That was Nicholas's voice. Faint and distorted, but unmistakably him. She was picking up some kind of North Pole communication channel. Exceptional performance by Helper Ellis, especially considering the initial equipment failure. Another voice, older and somehow merrier, and this route optimization. Quite innovative. "Where did you say it came from?" "I had assistance," Nicholas replied, and Harper could hear the smile in his voice. "A consulting engineer with a fresh perspective." Well, perhaps we should consider bringing more consultants into our operations. This efficiency improvement could revolutionize our global logistics." The signal faded into static. Harper adjusted frantically but couldn't recapture it. Still, she'd heard enough. Her device worked. She could reach across dimensions, tap into their communications, which meant she could send a signal too. Harper looked at the crystal snowflake, then at her grandmother's photo. "What do you think? Too crazy? Too desperate?" But she already knew what her grandmother would say. When it comes to love and magic, desperate is just another word for brave. Harper began modifying her device for transmission, her heart full of terrifying hope. She'd spent 5 years playing it safe, hiding from pain, choosing logic over wonder. But Nicholas had shown her that the universe was far stranger and more beautiful than her equations had ever suggested. Maybe it was time to solve for the one variable she'd always ignored: love. 3 days after Christmas, Harper stood in her garage, surrounded by what looked like a mad scientist's fever dream. Her makeshift communication device had evolved into a complex array of modified radio equipment, fiber optic cables, rare earth magnets, and at the center, a carefully mounted fragment of her grandmother's vintage Christmas ornaments, glass baubles that seemed to resonate at the same frequency as Nicholas's crystal snowflake. "Okay," she muttered, reviewing her calculations for the 100th time. "If my theory is correct, the ornaments act as a sympathetic resonator, amplifying the quantum signature of the Christmas energy field." She'd barely slept, surviving on coffee and the cinnamon rolls Mrs. Chen kept bringing over. Her neighbors had noticed her frantic activity. It was hard to miss the strange aurora-like lights that occasionally flashed from her garage. But in the spirit of post-Christmas goodwill, they'd simply offered to help, rather than asking too many questions. "Dr. Phillips?" a voice called from outside. "It's Marcus. Your car's been here for 3 days straight. Just checking you haven't been buried under an avalanche of equations." Harper opened the garage door to find her research partner looking concerned. "I'm fine, Marcus. Just working on something." His eyes widened as he took in her setup. "What in the name of Tesla is all this?" It's complicated. Harper, are those your grandmother's Christmas ornaments integrated into what appears to be a quantum communication array? Like I said, complicated. Marcus stepped closer, his engineering instincts overriding confusion. The electromagnetic field you're generating. It's unlike anything I've seen. What frequency are you broadcasting on? One that doesn't technically exist in our dimension, Harper admitted. Our dimension? Marcus repeated flatly. Harper, when's the last time you slept or ate actual food? Time isn't as linear as we think, Harper said, adjusting a connection. And Mrs. Chen brought cookies an hour ago. Marcus grabbed her shoulders gently. Harper, talk to me. What happened? This isn't like you. Harper laughed, a touch hysterically. That's the point. This isn't like me. The me from a week ago would never have believed. She gestured at her creation. But that me never flew in a magical sleigh, or helped deliver presents through quantum superposition, or fell in love with. She stopped abruptly, but Marcus's eyes sharpened. Fell in love? Harper, who... A burst of static from the device cut him off. Harper lunged for the controls, fine-tuning desperately. Through the white noise came a voice, faint but clear. Still no word from Helper Ellis. He completed his reports and immediately requested personal leave. That's highly unusual. Nicholas never takes leave during planning season. He seemed melancholy, mentioned something about understanding why humans find the holidays bittersweet. The signal faded. Harper's hands trembled as she adjusted the settings, but the connection was gone. Harper, Marcus said slowly, please tell me you didn't fall in love with someone claiming to be one of Santa's helpers. The term is Christmas helper, and I know how it sounds. Harper slumped onto her workbench. But Marcus, it was real. All of it. The magic, the flight, the way he looked at me like I hung the stars. She held up the still pulsing snowflake. He gave me this. It's crystallized aurora borealis. Marcus examined the snowflake with scientific curiosity. The molecular structure is impossible. It's exhibiting properties that shouldn't exist at this temperature and pressure. Exactly. Harper grabbed his arm. You see it too. It's real. Okay, Marcus said carefully. Let's say I believe you. You met someone magical, fell in love in one night, and now you're building a device too. What? Call the North Pole? More than call. Harper turned back to her equipment with renewed determination. If I can establish a stable communication link, I can prove that dimensional bridge technology is possible. That connections can exist between worlds that shouldn't touch. That love can transcend physics? Marcus suggested dryly. Traditional physics, Harper corrected. Nicholas showed me there's so much more. Marcus, what if everything we think we know is just a tiny slice of reality? What if magic and science aren't opposites but different approaches to the same truth? Marcus studied her for a long moment. Then, to her surprise, he smiled. You know what? I haven't seen you this passionate about anything since your grandmother passed. If chasing interdimensional love is what brings back the Harper who believes in impossible things, then hand me a soldering iron. Really? Really. Besides, he grinned, if you're right, we'll revolutionize physics. If you're wrong, at least you'll have the most interesting heartbreak story in academic history. They worked together through the night, Marcus's fresh perspective helping Harper refine her calculations. He didn't fully believe, she could see the skepticism in his eyes, but he believed in her, and that was enough. Try boosting the harmonic frequency, Marcus suggested, monitoring the oscilloscope. If these ornaments are resonating with your crystal, we might be able to create a standing wave. Harper made the adjustment, and suddenly the garage filled with soft, multicolored light. The aurora had come to her, dancing in impossible patterns around the equipment. Holy Schrödinger, Marcus breathed. Harper, the energy readings. I know! She fine-tuned frantically. It's working! The dimensional barrier is thinning. Through the static came music, distant but unmistakable. Christmas carols played on what sounded like instruments made of starlight and snow. This is Helper Station North, Harper said into the microphone, her voice shaking, attempting to reach Nicholas Ellis. Nicholas, if you can hear me. The music cut off abruptly. Silence stretched, thick with possibility. Then, Harper? His voice, clear as if he were standing beside her. Harper's knees nearly buckled. Nicholas, I did it. How is this possible? He sounded stunned. The dimensional barriers, the energy requirements. Turns out love is a pretty powerful fuel source, Harper said, tears streaming down her face. Who knew? Marcus made a choked sound beside her, pointing at the readings. The energy output from Harper's jury-rigged device was off the charts, powered by something their instruments couldn't quantify. Harper, Nicholas's voice was rough with emotion. I've been trying to find a way back to you. The regulations, the distance. I thought it was hopeless. Since when do we let hopeless stop us? Harper laughed through her tears. We fixed your sleigh with duct tape and determination. We can figure this out too. Helper Ellis? A new voice interrupted. The older, merrier one Harper had heard before. Is that the engineer? The one who saved Christmas? Yes, sir, Nicholas replied. Harper, I'd like you to meet the senior coordinator. Harper interrupted, not wanting him to say something that Marcus might find too unbelievable. It's an honor, sir. The honor is mine, young lady. That route optimization was brilliant. We've had 3 departments asking to study it. A pause. Helper Ellis has been quite insistent that we need a consulting engineer on staff, someone who bridges our world and yours. Harper's heart stopped. Sir? It would be unprecedented, the coordinator continued thoughtfully. A human consultant, splitting time between dimensions. The commute alone would require significant magical investment. But then again, innovation often requires unprecedented measures. I'll work for cookies, Harper blurted out, then immediately wanted to sink into the floor. But the coordinator laughed, rich and warm. I think we can do better than that, Helper Ellis. Might I suggest you take the Aurora Express back to Hollybrook Falls? I believe you and Dr. Phillips have a contract to negotiate. Sir, are you saying? I'm saying that anyone who can build a dimensional communicator out of Christmas ornaments and determination deserves a place on our team. The paperwork will be complex, but when has that ever stopped Christmas magic? The connection crackled. Harper, Nicholas said urgently, I can be there in 6 hours, less if the aurora is favorable. Will you? I'll be waiting, Harper promised. Right here in my garage full of impossible things. I love you, he said, the words rushing out like he'd been holding them back for days. I should have said it Christmas morning. I love your brilliant mind and your stubborn logic and the way you believe so fiercely once you choose to believe. I love you too, Harper whispered. Even if you did crash into my rose garden and ruin my perfectly ordered life. Best crash I ever had, Nicholas said softly. 6 hours, Harper. Wait for me. The connection faded, leaving Harper and Marcus standing in a garage full of fading aurora light. So, Marcus said after a long moment, want to explain how I just helped you phone the North Pole and possibly get a job offer from Santa? Want to help me clean up this garage before my interdimensional boyfriend arrives? Harper countered. Marcus grinned. Only if you promise to name a theorem after me when you revolutionize physics. Deal, Harper laughed, feeling lighter than she had in years. The Marcus Phillips principle of love-based quantum tunneling needs work, Marcus said, already helping her organize the chaos. But we've got time. After all, you just proved that with enough determination and Christmas ornaments, anything is possible. As they worked, Harper kept glancing at the sky through the garage windows. 6 hours. In 6 hours, Nicholas would be here, and they'd begin figuring out how to build a life and a love that spanned dimensions. Should have been impossible, but then again, Harper was learning that impossible was just another word for an opportunity to innovate. 5 hours and 47 minutes later, Harper paced her driveway in the red coat Nicholas had given her, watching the sky with an intensity usually reserved for monitoring test flights. Marcus had stayed to provide moral support and to witness what he called either the greatest love story in scientific history or the most elaborate delusion. You know, Marcus said from his perch on her porch steps, most people just use dating apps. Most people don't fall in love with magical Christmas helpers, Harper retorted, checking her watch again. He said 6 hours. It's been 5 hours and 48 minutes. Marcus supplied. Yes, I know. You've mentioned it. 12 times. Harper was about to respond when the aurora borealis erupted across the sky. Impossible for their latitude, impossible for the time of day, impossible period. The ribbons of light danced and swirled, concentrating into a single point directly above her house. Harper, Marcus said faintly, are you seeing? A sleigh materialized from the light. Not Nicholas's work sleigh. This one was smaller, sleeker, clearly designed for speed over cargo capacity. It descended in a spiral of color and impossible physics, landing with barely a whisper in her driveway. Nicholas vaulted out before it fully stopped, and then he was running toward her, and Harper was running too, and they met in the middle in a collision of joy and relief and love. You're here, Harper breathed against his shoulder. You're really here. You called me across dimensions, Nicholas murmured into her hair. How could I be anywhere else? They pulled apart just enough to look at each other. Nicholas looked exhausted but happy, wearing casual clothes that made him seem more human and somehow more magical at the same time. Hi, Harper said, suddenly shy. Hi, he replied, cupping her face gently. I missed you. It's been 3 days. Longest 3 days of my existence. Oh my God, Marcus said from the porch. It's real. It's all real. Harper, there's an actual magical sleigh in your driveway. With actual... Is that reindeer fur on the seats? Nicholas glanced over, amused. You must be Marcus. Harper mentioned she had help with the communicator. Thank you for believing her. I believed in her, Marcus corrected, still staring at the sleigh. The magical Christmas helper part was an adjustment. Harper laced her fingers through Nicholas's, grounding herself in his solid warmth. So this job offer. Nicholas's grin widened. The coordinator was serious. He wants to create a new position. Interdimensional technical consultant. You'd help modernize our systems, bridge the gap between magic and mortal technology. The pay is unconventional, but the benefits are excellent. Define unconventional. Your salary would be paid in a combination of standard currency, crystallized joy, and unlimited access to the North Pole's research library, which contains knowledge from across the multiverse. They had me at research library, Harper admitted. But Nicholas, how would it work? Would I have to move to the North Pole? Can humans even survive there long term? What about my work here, my life? That's the beautiful part, Nicholas interrupted gently. The position is designed to be split between worlds. You'd spend part of your time at the North Pole, part here continuing your Earth research. We'd install permanent portal points for easy travel. You could even bring Marcus for collaborative projects. The coordinator was impressed by his open-mindedness. I get to visit the North Pole? Marcus perked up. Wait until the physics department hears about this. Actually, they'll never believe it. I don't believe it, and I'm looking right at it. Harper's mind raced through the possibilities. I'd be the first human to officially work with your organization? The first in modern history, Nicholas confirmed. There are legends of others centuries ago, but you'd be pioneering the program. No pressure. No pressure, Harper repeated dryly. Just casually commuting between dimensions and revolutionizing the intersection of magic and science. Well, when you put it like that. Nicholas pulled her closer. Harper, I know it's a lot. And if you need time to think, yes. Yes. You need time? Yes to the job. Yes to the interdimensional commute. Yes to everything. Harper felt giddy with the impossibility of it all. But I have conditions. Of course you do, Nicholas said fondly. Name them. First, I want to establish a proper research partnership. Not just me consulting for you, but real collaboration. Your magical knowledge combined with Earth science could revolutionize both worlds. Agreed. What else? Second, I want to document everything. With appropriate classification levels, of course. No more hiding magic from those who are ready to see it. We start small, maybe with children's hospitals or research programs, but we start building bridges. Nicholas's eyes shone. The coordinator will love that. He's been advocating for more openness for decades. Next? Third, Harper took a breath. I want us to have a home in both worlds. Somewhere that's ours, whether it's here or there. Somewhere we can just be Nicholas and Harper, not Helper Ellis and Dr. Phillips. Harper, Nicholas said softly, are you asking me to move in with you? I'm asking you to build a life with me, Harper corrected, one that honors both our worlds and creates something new. Something impossible and wonderful and ours. Instead of answering, Nicholas kissed her. It was their first real kiss, not a goodbye or a hello, but a promise. Harper melted into it, vaguely aware of Marcus making exaggerated gagging noises in the background. When they broke apart, the aurora still danced overhead, and Harper's garage equipment was humming in harmony with the sleigh's energy signature. Is that a yes? Harper asked breathlessly. That's a let's figure it out together, Nicholas replied. Though I should mention, interdimensional relationships require some unique accommodations. Time moves differently between worlds, aging can be affected by magical exposure, and don't get me started on the immigration paperwork. We fixed your sleigh's temporal stabilizer with spare parts and determination, Harper reminded him. I think we can handle some paperwork. The woman has a point, Marcus called out. Also, not to interrupt this beautiful moment, but the entire neighborhood is starting to notice the light show. Mrs. Chen is taking pictures. Harper glanced around to see several neighbors emerging from their houses, drawn by the impossible aurora. Mrs. Chen was indeed photographing enthusiastically, while the Washington children pressed against their window in excitement. Should we be worried? Harper asked Nicholas. He considered. The coordinator did say we should start building bridges. Maybe this is how it begins. One neighborhood at a time, one wonder at a time. As if in agreement, Emily Washington burst out of her house and ran toward them, her parents calling after her helplessly. I knew it! She shouted, skidding to a stop in front of the sleigh. I knew you were real. You're the Christmas helper. And you came back. Nicholas knelt to her level. Hello, Emily. Thank you for believing. Is Harper going to be a Christmas helper too? Emily asked with the directness of childhood. Something like that, Harper said, kneeling beside Nicholas. I'm going to help make Christmas even more magical using science. Cool! Can I help when I grow up? If you study hard and never stop believing in impossible things, Nicholas said seriously, then absolutely. More neighbors were approaching now, wonder overcoming wariness. Harper watched as Nicholas fielded questions with patience and joy, neither confirming nor denying the wildest speculations, but somehow leaving everyone feeling like they'd touched something magical. This is going to change everything, Marcus murmured beside her. Everything needs changing sometimes, Harper replied. Besides, look at their faces. When's the last time any of them looked that amazed? When's the last time you looked that happy? Marcus countered. Harper glanced at Nicholas, who was now showing the Kowalski twins how the sleigh's bells created different tones based on the ringer's emotional state. His face was alight with the joy of sharing wonder. 4 days ago, she answered honestly, when I first started believing. The impromptu gathering lasted another hour, with Nicholas somehow managing to give each neighbor a moment of magic without revealing operational secrets. He had a gift for it, Harper realized, making each person feel special while maintaining the mystery that made it all wonderful. Finally, as the sun began to set and the aurora faded to a gentle glow, the neighbors dispersed, chattering excitedly among themselves. Harper heard snatches of conversation about Christmas miracles and the magic of community, and how they'd always known there was something special about their neighborhood. That was beautiful, Harper told Nicholas as they finally had a moment alone. Marcus had gone to get pizzas, declaring that interdimensional romance still required proper fuel. You made their year. You made mine, Nicholas replied simply. Harper, I need you to know. This job, the bridge between worlds, it's not why I came back. I came back because the North Pole felt empty without you. Because every calculation reminded me of your brilliant mind, and every successful delivery felt hollow without you to share it with. I know, Harper said softly. I built a dimensional communicator out of Christmas ornaments and stubbornness. That's not exactly rational behavior. Most important things aren't rational, Nicholas pointed out. Love, hope, faith, they exist outside equations. Or maybe, Harper suggested, we just haven't found the right equations yet. Nicholas laughed, pulling her close. Only you would try to solve for love mathematically. Only you would crash into my life and make me believe in magic. They stood together in the fading light, the sleigh humming quietly beside them, the promise of adventures spanning dimensions stretching out ahead. It should have been terrifying, leaving behind everything safe and known. Instead, Harper felt like she was finally coming home. So, Nicholas said eventually, "When do you want to make your first official visit to the North Pole? The coordinator is eager to meet you properly, and the R&D department is already fighting over who gets to work with you first. How about tomorrow?" Harper suggested. "I'll need to arrange things at the university. Set up my lab for remote work. Probably write the world's strangest resignation letter." Or, Nicholas said with a grin, "you could keep your position and add Visiting Professor of Interdimensional Studies to your title. The coordinator has some pull with academic institutions." "Of course he does," Harper laughed. "Is there anything Christmas magic can't do?" "Well," Nicholas said thoughtfully, "it can't make Marcus's pizza arrive any faster. And I'm actually starving. Interdimensional travel burns a lot of calories." As if summoned, Marcus's car pulled up, loaded with pizza boxes and a bewildered expression. "3 pizzas, 2 salads, and about 1,000,000 questions," he announced. "Also, Harper, you realize you're going to have to publish something about this eventually? The scientific community will implode." "Let them," Harper said, surprising herself with her lack of concern. "Some discoveries are worth more than publications." They ate pizza in Harper's garage, surrounded by the equipment that had bridged worlds, planning a future that shouldn't exist. Marcus peppered Nicholas with questions about North Pole physics, while Harper sketched preliminary designs for permanent portal anchors. "You know," Nicholas said, watching her work with fond admiration, "most people's first concern would be about the relationship, not the technical specifications of dimensional travel." "I'm not most people," Harper reminded him. "Besides, the relationship is the easy part. I love you, you love me, we'll figure out the details as we go." "But the science, Nicholas, do you realize what we could accomplish? The diseases we could cure with access to multiversal knowledge? The technologies we could develop? He kissed her, effectively cutting off her enthusiasm spiral. "I love your brain," he murmured against her lips. "Just my brain?" Harper teased. "Your brain, your heart, your stubborn insistence on understanding everything. Your willingness to believe despite that insistence." Nicholas pulled back to look at her. "Harper Phillips, you are the most impossible thing I've ever encountered, and I deliver presence through quantum superposition." "Smooth talker," Harper said. She was glowing. "Think that charm will work on interdimensional immigration officials?" "Only one way to find out," Nicholas said. "Ready to see where the magic happens?" Harper looked around her garage, at the friend who'd believed her, the technology that had connected worlds, the man who'd crashed into her life and changed everything. Then she looked at the sleigh, waiting patiently outside, at the stars beginning to appear overhead, at the infinite possibility of what came next. "I've been ready my whole life," she said. "I just didn't know it until now." Nicholas stood and offered her his hand. "Then let's go home, Harper, both of them." She took his hand without hesitation. Whatever came next, whether it was revolutionizing physics, navigating interdimensional bureaucracy, or simply learning to live with an open heart again, Harper knew she wouldn't be facing it alone. And that, she thought as they walked toward the sleigh and their impossible future, was the most magical discovery of all. December 24th, 2025, Dr. Harper Phillips Ellis stood in the North Pole's primary research and development facility, making final adjustments to the Aurora Bridge Mark 7th, her latest innovation in interdimensional travel. Through the crystalline walls, she could see the bustle of Christmas Eve preparations, helpers rushing back and forth with last-minute updates and emergency repairs. 5-minute warning! Nicholas called out, striding into the lab with 2 mugs of cocoa. He wore his formal Christmas Eve uniform, burgundy coat gleaming with subtle enchantments, but his eyes were all for her. "How's our baby?" "Your timing or the bridge?" Harper asked, accepting the cocoa gratefully. "Both, but I meant the bridge." He peered at her latest modifications. "You added more stabilizers? After last month's incident with the summer solstice interference, I figured better safe than sorry." Harper made a final adjustment. "There, the new calibration should hold even during peak aurora activity. Have I mentioned lately that you're brilliant?" "Only 6 times today." Harper smiled, then checked her watch. A special piece that displayed time in 3 different dimensional zones. "You should get going. Don't want to be late for the big night." "About that." Nicholas set down his mug and took her hands. "I have something to ask you." Harper's heart skipped. They'd been married for 6 months. A ceremony that had taken place simultaneously in Hollybrook Falls and at the North Pole, with Marcus as best man and a reindeer as ring bearer. But Nicholas still had the ability to make her pulse race with a look. "Harper," he said seriously, "how would you feel about a passenger tonight? You want me to come on the route again?" Harper brightened. "I thought the coordinator said, not just the route." Nicholas's grin widened. "Harper, I want you to be my co-pilot. Officially." The coordinator approved it this morning, said it was time we had a married couple running a route together. Something about doubling the Christmas magic and setting a precedent for the future. Harper stared at him. "You're serious. You want me to help deliver presents, as an official position." "Helper Phillips Ellis does have a nice ring to it," Nicholas said hopefully. "Plus, with your route optimization algorithms and my traditional knowledge, we could revolutionize gift delivery. Think of it as an experiment in applied magical sciences." "I have a PhD in aerospace engineering," Harper said faintly. "Multiple publications, research grants, and you're asking me to become, what, Mrs. Claus's assistant?" "No," Nicholas said firmly. "I'm asking you to become my partner in bringing joy to the world, to use your brilliant mind to make children happy, to prove that science and magic work better together than apart." He paused. "Also, the dental plan is excellent." Harper burst out laughing. "You know I can't resist a good dental plan. Is that a yes?" She pretended to consider. "I'll need my own section in the sleigh for equipment, and approval to test new delivery methods, and—" "Yes to everything," Nicholas interrupted, pulling her into his arms. "Harper, you could ask for the moon and I'd figure out how to wrap it. Just the chance to revolutionize Christmas delivery will be fine," Harper said against his chest. "Though I might have some ideas about lunar-based present staging stations for future expansion." "Of course you do." Nicholas pulled back to look at her. "Mrs. Chen is going to flip when she hears about this." "Oh, she already knows," Harper admitted. "She's organizing a neighborhood watch party. Apparently, half of Hollybrook Falls is planning to stay up hoping to spot us. Marcus is running a book on whether we'll use the traditional chimney approach or my new quantum phase shift method." "Both," Nicholas said immediately. "Tradition for the nostalgic houses, innovation for the modern apartments. Best of both worlds. Like us," Harper said softly. "Exactly like us." He kissed her gently, then more urgently as Harper's hands found their way into his hair. As much as I'd love to continue this, we really do have to go. Rudolph gets cranky if we're late." "Can't have a cranky lead reindeer," Harper agreed, straightening his collar. "I'll grab my gear and meet you at the launch platform." 20 minutes later, Harper stood beside the fully loaded sleigh, wearing her own Christmas Eve uniform, a beautiful crimson coat with silver trim that somehow managed to be both elegant and practical. Her tablet was loaded with real-time route data, and her equipment bag contained everything from emergency repair tools to experimental delivery devices. "Ready for this?" Nicholas asked, helping her into the navigator's seat. A new addition they'd designed together. "Ready to deliver presents to millions of children using a combination of temporal mechanics and holiday spirit?" Harper grinned. "I've been ready my whole life." The launch platform was crowded with well-wishers. The coordinator himself had come to see them off, his eyes twinkling with approval. "Dr. Phillips Ellis," he said warmly, "I trust you'll take good care of our helper Ellis tonight." always do, sir, Harper replied. Though technically, according to the quantum entanglement of our wedding vows, we take care of each other. The coordinator laughed, a sound like bells and warmth. I knew you were the right choice. Safe travels, both of you. And Harper, welcome officially to the team. As they prepared for takeoff, Harper's tablet chimed with messages from Earth. Marcus had sent a photo of the neighborhood gathering, complete with a banner reading Hollybrook Falls believes. Mrs. Chen had added a note, cookies on the porch, extra cardamom, as requested. Popular already, Nicholas observed. It helps that I gave an interdimensional physics lecture at the community center last month, Harper said. Once people understand the science behind the magic, they're much more accepting. Only you would explain Christmas magic using wave-particle duality, Nicholas said fondly. Only you would love me for it, Harper countered. Rudolph snorted impatiently, his nose beginning to glow brighter. The other reindeer, Dasher through Blitzen, plus the new additions from the expanded fleet, pawed at the launch platform. All systems showing green, Harper reported, checking her displays. Temporal stabilizers online. Quantum navigation locked in. Traditional Christmas magic at 98% and rising. 98%? Nicholas looked concerned. What's causing the reduction? Marcus's skepticism is still registering on the belief network, Harper explained. But don't worry, his curiosity about our phase shift delivery system is compensating nicely. Nicholas shook his head in amazement. I love that you've quantified belief. I love that you've shown me what to believe in, Harper replied. They shared a look full of warmth and promise. Then Nicholas took the reins. Ready, Mrs. Claus in training? Ready, Mr. Christmas Helper. Harper's fingers flew over her tablet, initiating the launch sequence. First stop, the Martinez family in Seattle. 3 kids, 1 puppy, and a plate of snickerdoodles that Jose insists are better than his abuela's. Snickerdoodles? Nicholas perked up. Your grandmother's recipe? I may have shared it with a few families on our route, Harper admitted. Consider it a gift to the Christmas cookie database. Have I mentioned that you're perfect? Only 7 times today now? Nicholas grinned and called out the traditional launch command, which Harper now knew was actually an ancient incantation for bending space-time. Rudolph leaped forward, the sleigh lifted, and reality politely stepped aside to let magic through. As they soared into the Christmas Eve sky, Harper marveled at how much had changed in a year. She'd gone from a skeptical engineer hiding from the holidays to a magical scientist helping to run Christmas. Her publications now included papers on interdimensional energy transfer in belief-based systems, published in both Earth journals and the North Pole Quarterly Review. Her garage had become a test site for prototype delivery systems. Her heart had learned to hold both logic and wonder in perfect balance. Harper, Nicholas said as they approached their first stop. Thank you. For what? For saying yes. To all of it. To the impossible job, the interdimensional marriage, the complete transformation of everything we thought we knew about reality. Thank you for crashing into my rose garden, Harper replied. Best accident of my life. They descended toward Seattle, the city lights spreading below them like earthbound stars. Harper's equipment showed optimal conditions, high belief readings, minimal temporal interference, and a strong aurora borealis forecast for later in the evening. You know, she said as Nicholas prepared for their first chimney descent of the night, I've been thinking about next year. What if we expanded the Helper program? Recruited more Earth scientists? We could create an entire interdimensional exchange program. Already planning to revolutionize everything? Nicholas asked, amused. Well, I have to keep busy during the off-season, Harper said. Plus, imagine what we could accomplish with a full team. Medical breakthroughs, environmental solutions, educational innovations. Save the world and Christmas at the same time? Why not? Harper asked seriously. We've already proven that impossible is just a starting point. Nicholas kissed her quickly before vanishing down the chimney. Harper monitored his progress on her equipment, still amazed by the readings even after all these months. Love, she discovered, really was the most powerful force in any universe. It just took the right instruments to measure it. As she prepared to follow him down, her phase shift method was still experimental, but Nicholas insisted on tradition for the first house. Harper thought about her grandmother. Somewhere, somehow, she knew Rose Phillips was smiling, probably sharing snickerdoodles with other spirits and bragging about her granddaughter who'd married a Christmas helper and revolutionized interdimensional travel. "Merry Christmas, Grandma," Harper whispered to the stars. "Thank you for teaching me to believe." Then she quantum shifted through the chimney, ready to help deliver joy to the world, one impossible moment at a time. The night stretched ahead, full of promise and wonder. There would be challenges. There always were when mixing magic and science. But Harper had learned that the best discoveries came from embracing both the possible and impossible, the logical and the magical, the equations and the faith. Besides, she thought, as she materialized in the Martinez living room to find Nicholas already arranging presents with artistic precision, she had the best partner in any dimension. Together, they could solve any problem, bridge any gap, and deliver any amount of Christmas joy. "Ready for the next stop?" Nicholas asked, his eyes shining with excitement and love. "Always," Harper said, meaning it with every fiber of her being. "Let's go save Christmas. For science." "For love," Nicholas countered. "For both," Harper decided, and followed him back up the chimney toward their waiting sleigh and their impossible, wonderful, magical life. As they flew on through the night, the aurora borealis painted the sky in celebration, and somewhere in the distance, the sound of children's laughter echoed across dimensions. It was Christmas Eve, and all was right with every world. 5 years later, the peer review board for the Journal of Theoretical Physics stared at the paper before them in complete bewilderment. Dr. Harper Phillips Ellis's latest submission, the Phillips-Ellis theorem, quantifying love as a fundamental force in multidimensional space, came with more experimental data than any of them had seen, citations from sources that didn't technically exist in their dimension, and a co-author listed simply as N. Ellis, North Pole Institute of Advanced Studies. But the math checked out. Somehow, impossibly, the math always checked out. In her office at the University of Washington, now expanded to include a permanent portal to her North Pole laboratory, Harper smiled as she received yet another request for clarification from the journal. Through the window, she could see the first snow of the season beginning to fall, and her heart lifted with anticipation. "Mommy, Daddy says the sleigh is ready," a small voice piped up from the portal doorway. Harper turned to see her daughter, 4-year-old Christina Rose Ellis, bouncing excitedly in her miniature helper coat. Chris had her father's green eyes and her mother's determined chin, plus an unfortunate habit of quantum shifting through walls when excited. "Did he check the new navigation array?" Harper asked, closing her laptop. The journal could wait. Christmas was coming, and she had a route to optimize. "He said to tell you he checked it twice," Chris reported seriously. "Just like the list." Harper laughed and scooped up her daughter, who immediately began chattering about the improvements she wanted to make to Rudolph's harness. "It needs more sparkles, Mommy." Together, they stepped through the portal from autumn in Seattle to eternal winter at the North Pole. Nicholas was indeed in the workshop, making final adjustments to their sleigh. Now a marvel of magical engineering that Harper had co-designed. It could exist in 17 dimensions simultaneously, ran on a hybrid engine of belief and sustainable aurora energy, and had cup holders that kept cocoa at the perfect temperature across any time zone. "There are my girls," Nicholas said, looking up with a smile that still made Harper's heart skip. "Chris, did you tell Mommy about your acceptance letter?" "What acceptance letter?" Harper asked, though she suspected she knew. Chris beamed. "The Junior Helper Academy said, I can start next year. I'm going to learn all about toy engineering and cookie science and temporal mechanics." "Cookie science is very important," Harper agreed solemnly. "I expect you to pay special attention to that module." As Chris ran off to share her news with the reindeer, Nicholas wrapped his arms around Harper. "The coordinator approved your proposal, by the way. The Earth-North Pole Science Exchange Program officially launches next summer." "Really?" Harper brightened. "Marcus is going to flip." He's been dying to study the workshop's perpetual motion engines. Well, he'd better be prepared for some competition. We've had inquiries from physicists, engineers, even a few philosophers who want to study the metaphysics of generosity. Nicholas pressed a kiss to her temple. You've changed everything, you know. The whole operation runs differently now, better, more efficient, more connected to the world we serve. We changed everything, Harper corrected. I just provided the math. You provided the magic. Together we proved that they're not opposites. They're complementary forces. The Phillips-Ellis theorem in action? Exactly. Though the peer reviewers seem to be having some trouble with the section on love-based propulsion systems, Nicholas laughed. Their loss. We know it works. Through the workshop windows, Harper could see the northern lights beginning their evening dance. 5 years ago, she would have seen only charged particles interacting with the magnetosphere. Now she saw that and so much more. The visual representation of joy, the pathway between worlds, the scientific proof that wonder and understanding could coexist. Harper, Nicholas said softly, do you ever regret it? Giving up a normal life? Harper considered the question, thinking of her split-dimensional existence, her daughter who could phase through matter, her husband who delivered joy to the world, her work that spanned multiple realities. Never, she said firmly. Normal is overrated. Besides, someone has to keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible. For science? Nicholas teased, echoing their old joke. Or love, Harper replied, then grinned, and maybe a little bit for the really excellent dental plan. As Chris's laughter echoed from the reindeer stables and the aurora painted impossible colors across the sky, Harper Phillips-Ellis stood in the heart of magic and science combined, surrounded by her impossible, wonderful family, and knew that she had found the solution to the only equation that truly mattered: love plus wonder, multiplied by belief, divided by the artificial barriers between possible and impossible, equals infinite joy. The math, as always, checked out perfectly. And so our story comes to an end, with Harper and Nicholas proving that the most magical equation of all is the one that brings hearts together. As you drift off to sleep tonight, may you dream of aurora-lit skies, quantum sleigh rides, and the warm glow of love that bridges all worlds. Remember that magic exists wherever we choose to see it, and that sometimes the most logical thing to do is believe in the impossible. Thank you for joining me for this Christmas tale. May your dreams be filled with wonder, your heart with peace, and your tomorrow with a little bit of Christmas magic. This has been Christmas Stories for Sleep. Sweet dreams and Merry Christmas.